Episode 3. Am I a bad parent? What's yours and what's not yours? Today we're stepping into a topic that touches something very deep inside many parents, especially those whose children have grown up, moved on, pulled away, or turned cold in ways that feel confusing and painful. The question, am I a bad parent, doesn't come out of nowhere. It usually appears late at night, when the house is quiet, when the phone hasn't rung in weeks, when your messages go unanswered, or when your grown child blames you for things you don't even remember the same way. This question comes from love, not failure. It comes from a heart that still cares. And today we are going to gently separate two worlds. What is truly your responsibility and what never belonged to you in the first place. This is one of the most freeing conversations a parent can ever have. 1. The myth of the perfect parent and why it haunts so many people. Let's begin with something foundational. There is no such thing as a perfect parent. There never was. There never will be. You raised your child inside real life with real pressures, real limitations, real fears, real financial worries, real exhaustion, and very little guidance. You made decisions based on the knowledge you had then, not the clarity you have now. Carl Jung once said, "There is no coming into consciousness without pain." He meant that we grow by living, not by knowing everything in advance. Parents grow the same way. You were not meant to be flawless. You were meant to be human. A mother named Irene once told me, "I look back now and see moments I wish I handled differently, but I also remember the rent, the sleepless nights, the illness, the pressure, and I realize I did the best I could." She wasn't a perfect parent, she was a real one. And real parents are the ones who shape strong, resilient children. If you're questioning yourself now, it's not because you failed, it's because you loved deeply. 2. What might genuinely be yours? Let's gently acknowledge what could be your part of the story. Not as blame, but as recognition. Maybe there were moments when you were overwhelmed and didn't have emotional energy. You were strict because you feared for your child's future. You were quieter, more distant, more tired than you wish you had been. You didn't talk openly about feelings because no one taught you how. These things happen to millions of parents. They are part of the human experience, not evidence of failure. Jung believed that parents pass down not only love, but also their unprocessed struggles, unknowingly. Not because they are bad, but because they are human beings in motion. A father named Samuel once shared a story. He worked 2 jobs, came home exhausted, and didn't always have the patience he wished for. Years later, his son said, "You were strict, but you were always there. You showed me how to work hard." Samuel cried because he finally understood something important. His imperfections didn't erase his love, and they didn't destroy his child. Let this settle in your chest gently. Your mistakes do not define your entire parenthood. The years of love, effort, sacrifice, and showing up, those define you. 3. What is not yours and never was? This is where the real healing begins. There is a long list of things parents blame themselves for, even when they had no control over any of it. Let's talk about that. You are not responsible for your adult child's emotional maturity, how they cope with stress, whether they hold grudges or refuse to communicate, their relationship choices, their career struggles, their inability to apologize, or the story they choose to tell themselves about the past. A woman named Judith once told me her grown son said, "I'm unhappy because of how you raised me." But he was 38. He had a stable income, a home, opportunities she never had, and still blamed her. That blame was about him, not about her. Jung taught that when adults avoid facing their own shadow, their fears, insecurities, anger, disappointments, they often project it onto the easiest and safest target, and the safest target is usually the parent. When your adult child blames you for everything, it doesn't mean you failed. It means they are not ready to own their own story. This is their psychological journey, not your report card.
4. Why guilt attaches itself so quickly to loving parents. Parents feel guilt so easily because guilt is woven into love. When you care, you look inward first. You think, maybe it was me, maybe I should have done better. But guilt is not always truth. Often it's just a deeply rooted habit of the heart. Carl Jung said something very powerful. The parent's task is to prepare the child for life, not protect the child from life. You taught them how to survive, how to keep going, how to care, how to try. You could not and should not have prevented every discomfort or challenge. A father named Thomas once said, "My daughter is angry at her whole life, and somehow I became the symbol of everything that disappointed her." He wasn't alone. Many parents carry guilt for storms their adult children created themselves. Guilt grows in silence, but guilt does not equal blame, and guilt is not the same as responsibility. 5. Responsibility versus blame. The most freeing distinction. Here's the truth, spoken gently but clearly. You were responsible for raising your child. You are not responsible for how they behave as an adult. Two siblings raised in the same home can grow into completely different adults. One thankful, one resentful, one indifferent. If parenting alone determined behavior, all children from the same family would be the same. But they aren't. A mother named Elise asked me, "How can I be a good mother to one son and a bad mother to the other?" The answer is simple: you can't. Because it was never about you in the first place. Each child grows their own psyche, their own wounds, their own interpretations, their own shadows. Jung believed that every adult must go through a process called individuation, the journey of separating from the parent and forming an independent identity. Some do it with gratitude, some do it with distance, some do it with anger, but it is their journey, not an evaluation of you. 6. Stories of real parents and what they teach us. Let's sit with a few examples that mirror what so many people experience. A woman named Carol shared that her son barely spoke to her for years. She assumed it was because of something she'd done. When they finally talked, he said, "Mom, I was drowning in my own life.
I wasn't avoiding you. I was avoiding everyone. Her relief was immense. She realized the silence wasn't judgment. It was overwhelm. A man named Daniel told his mother that he had spent years angry at her because it was easier than admitting he was afraid of failing in adulthood. He said, "I blamed you because I didn't know where else to place my fear." This is classic Jungian projection. His mother carried guilt she never deserved. A daughter told her aging father, "I never thought about saying thank you. You were always strong. You didn't look like you needed it." He cried because he finally understood. His silence about his own needs had hidden them from her. These stories carry one message. Your adult child's behavior is rarely a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their emotional world. 7. How to release guilt and reclaim your confidence as a parent. Let's talk about healing. You can begin releasing the weight you've been carrying by accepting a few truths. You were human, not perfect. And that was enough. You gave love, structure, food, guidance and stability. You handled more than anyone knows. You did not intentionally harm your child. Loving parents rarely do. Mistakes happen, but intent matters. Your adult child is responsible for their own growth now, not you, not anymore. You are allowed to see yourself with compassion. You deserve to be held by your own kindness. And most importantly, your story is not defined by the version of it your adult child chooses to tell. You know the life you lived. You know the sacrifices you made. And you know the love you carried. Jung believed that healing begins when we integrate all parts of ourselves. The mistakes, the successes, the love, the fear, into one whole picture. You are a whole parent. So, are you a bad parent? No. You are a loving parent who did your best with what you had. Your imperfections do not erase the years of giving, caring, protecting, guiding, and showing up. Your adult child's behavior reflects their journey, not your failure. You have the right to peace, the right to compassion for yourself, and the right to let go of guilt that never belonged to you. In the next episode, we'll talk about something many of you have been quietly carrying: how to live without bitterness and without the crushing loneliness that often follows emotional distance or a painful break with adult children. If you want to be notified when that episode comes out, subscribe and tap the notification bell so you don't miss it.